Among all legendary mythical creatures, one of the most fascinating to us is the shapeshifter. Found in almost every religious, cultural, or folk myth, shapeshifters are creatures that can assume the form of any living, and sometimes dead, people or animals, and mostly use their powers for nefarious purposes. Their powers are such that they are virtually indestructible at times and can barely be recognized as imposters when they pretend to be someone else. Usually, they have superhuman speed and strength along with a plethora of other powers, which make them a formidable foe. Now, in movies and TV shows, they've been portrayed as terrifying villains as well as cool sidekicks. One of the most well-known portrayals of a shapeshifter in recent years is that of Mystique from the X-Men franchise. While initially a villain, Mystique is later revealed to be a character with many layers to her personality. While her true form is blue and scaly with short red hair and golden eyes, she can transform into anyone within a blink of an eye and even imitate their voices. In some other adaptations, shapeshifters can even access the memories of the people they impersonate and have to shed their skins in a somewhat painful process to look like another person. The original form of these shifters is almost always quite scary to look at, and they generally don't reveal it unless they're sure they can overpower their victim. So we've compiled this list of shapeshifters from movies that have plagued the minds of young fans for years. These are aliens, demonic entities, machines, and even former humans who have mostly used their shapeshifting powers to terrorize their victims. Sit tight and maybe keep the lights on for this. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Pennywise, It, 2017. Stephen King needs absolutely no introduction, nor does his iconic character It, also known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Clowns are already scary enough, we get it. And on top of that, this one eats young children and can change how it looks, making it the perfect nightmare fodder. The entity makes an appearance in many works of the author and is believed to be related to the Crimson King from the Dark Tower series. It belonged to some other dimension or planet, but as a result of cataclysmic activity, it arrived on Earth sometime in the 16th century. Soon enough, it realized that there was no natural food source on this planet, and as a result, resorted to hunting and eating children every 27 years. In order to do so, it transforms itself into the children's worst nightmares and apparently fear salts the meat so that it tastes far better. The true form of the creature is not revealed, but it prefers to take the form of a clown. Apparently, after having watched a performance in the 1800s by a clown named Pennywise, it adopted the moniker. The entity was born in the Macroverse, a dimension outside the regions of space. Its real name and species are deadlights, but few know this information. Its form as a female spider is the true physical form it takes on Earth, or at least that's what it appears to the human mind. Because of this, the gender of the entity is always a mystery since it dresses as a male clown. Moreover, it is female in the novels, but male in the films. It can morph into any human, animal, or object and use this ability to appear as a victim's loved one to lure them, or as their fear to manipulate them. Interestingly, several times in the novel, it refers to itself as Robert Bob Gray, which was the alias of real-life child cannibal Albert Fish. It feeds on humans and prefers children to adults since they're easier to lure. In addition to shapeshifting, it also possesses the ability of mind control to some extent. Pennywise has claimed numerous victims, including Georgie Denbrough. However, Georgie's older brother Bill ultimately turned out to be the clown's kryptonite. Bill formed a gang called the Losers Club, and they fought Pennywise, injuring it so severely that it was forced to retire into a slumber for the next 27 years. However, when it woke up to start feeding again, it didn't realize that the Losers Club would still try to stop it. At that point, it finally revealed its true form, which was so terrifying that the more someone looked at it, the madder they would get. It resembled a massive female spider and unfortunately killed Eddie Kaspbrak, but later it was finally overpowered by the losers. They broke its legs and head and tore out its heart before crushing it, which finally caused the physical form of the creature to die and the deadlights to fade away. The Thing 1982. Among all alien shapeshifters, The Thing probably takes the cake considering its legacy as an icon in sci-fi horror. It's a very hostile extraterrestrial organism and is the primary antagonist of the 1982 science fiction movie The Thing. Since it's a shapeshifter, it can adopt the biology of whichever thing it would replicate or be in the process of replicating. The alien can reconstitute itself after taking damage and is pretty much invulnerable to most traditional weapons. That being said, fire and molecular acid can be detrimental to it since these can destroy it at a cellular level. It can withstand cold and places itself in a cryogenic stasis until unsuspecting victims can be found. When it changes its form, it bursts out and takes the shape of whatever it had replicated earlier, and this includes tentacles, teeth, eyes, mouths, and faces. Eventually, it rearranges its molecular structure to mimic the desired shape it wants. It can function normally even when it does not have eyes, ears, or mouths, which are vital to respond to the environment around it. In any form that it takes, the thing can be capable of an insane amount of strength, speed, and reflexes, irrespective of the size of what it has replicated to. While it is a shapeshifter, it needs to come in contact with the host to replicate the cellular structure and assimilate it. Its cells start to digest and eventually take over the host completely. While the thing will assimilate all kinds of living prey, it will leave behind prey that is already dead. This is because the creature is probably intelligent enough to know that if it shows up as someone who is already dead, it will not be taken seriously or be exposed as an imposter to other members of the community. After completely assimilating the host, the thing is capable of replicating everything about them, down to their memories and mannerisms. The alien only cares about assimilation and self-preservation. It will always choose to save itself or attack other forms of life to avoid any suspicion about its true nature. However, in some cases where it's been discovered, or will certainly be discovered, it uses the divide and rule strategy and divides its body in a way to ensure maximum assimilation. How intelligent the thing is depends on its size. The larger it is, the more intelligent it is, and vice versa. A smaller thing would probably engage head-on, whereas a larger thing would explore other options, like staying hidden for the sake of self-preservation. It's possible that the thing has the combined intelligence of all the creatures it has assimilated. That being said, there are several forms of the thing that are nothing less than mindless animals and possess rudimentary intelligence only. The only way to kill a thing completely is to incinerate it or destroy it wholly with explosives. While smaller things can be killed easily, it may take more effort for larger things. Seth Brundle, The Fly. Seth Brundle is the primary antagonist of the 1986 remake of The Fly. He was a molecular physicist who wanted to cure his motion sickness and created teleportation machines for it. But one night, while he was drunk, he used the teleporter and a fly had entered the machine. This turned him into a human-fly hybrid, known as the Brundle fly. Seth was a recluse and heavily suffered from motion sickness to the point where all vehicles made him angry. He opened up about his experiment to a journalist named Veronica, with whom he got involved sexually. However, her former lover was about to release the information about the experiment to the world, and Veronica wanted to stop this. Seth misunderstood her and believed she was still seeing him, and used the machine on himself, unaware that a fly had also crept inside. While the teleportation was successful, he found himself strangely energized upon waking up the next day, with unnatural reflexes. He also started getting very aggressive and developed coarse hairs on his back. When Veronica refused to try the experiment for herself, he abandoned her and went on to find a new sexual partner. However, Veronica returned and informed him that she had tested the hair on his back and they had come out to be insectoid, not human. While he chased her out, he was horrified to find lesions on his face and body. And when he checked his experiment, he realized that the presence of two different life forms in the teleportation pod had resulted in his genetic structure getting fused with that of the fly, meaning he was slowly turning into a human-fly hybrid. He started degenerating physically, emotionally, and morally, and was in equal parts fascinated by the metamorphosis and desperate to regain his humanity. Upon hearing that Veronica was pregnant with his child and was trying to abort it, he begged her to carry it to term because if it was conceived before his transformation began, then that child was the only human thing about him that he would be left with. However, Veronica refused, and enraged, Brundle decided to fuse her, her unborn child, and himself together to form a completely new entity. However, Barnes, Veronica's ex, was able to save her, but Brundle was mortally wounded and begged her for a merciful death, which she obliged. Prior to his transition, Seth was a regular human being with a high IQ, but after merging with the Fly, he became extremely energetic, possessed insane strength and agility, and was very sexually voracious. He retained his superhuman strength even after deteriorating rapidly and developed other abilities that allowed him to scale walls and cling to them, vomit highly corrosive enzymes on his food and enemies, and in general became a ghastly, asymmetrical, and vile-looking creature. T-1000, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. One of the most iconic shapeshifters in sci-fi has got to be T-1000 from Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Made of liquid metal, he's vastly different from the T-800 Terminator and was sent to kill John Connor in time so that his creator Skynet could win the war. When the T-1000 arrived in the past, he killed a police officer, stole his clothes and gun, and started mimicking other humans. He went to John's foster home but was unable to find him since he had run away that morning, and he was told that someone else had also come looking for him. The robot understood that it must be someone sent to protect John. When he finally tracked him down, the T-800 appeared as well, and the two Terminators were left fighting each other while John escaped. The T-1000 finally tracked him down, but was unable to kill him, and went back to his foster parents' home, where it killed them and pretended to be his foster mother on the phone. This is when the T-800 reveals that the other Terminator is actually a shapeshifter and can resemble anyone it touches or makes contact with in any way. The chase for John continues, and the evil Terminator tracks him down at the mental facility where Sarah Connor was and wounds her in the process. While Sarah, John, and the T-800 arrive at Cyberdyne Systems, which would eventually become Skynet, relentlessly pursued by the Terminator, things finally seem to be looking up when liquid nitrogen falls over it and T-800 shoots it to pieces. However, the intense heat from the surrounding areas causes the fragmented pieces to join back together, despite the Terminator undergoing some glitches due to the damage it had taken. It wounds Sarah badly and renders the T-800 dead momentarily before taking Sarah's form to lure John out. However, the plan fails, and it falls into a vat of molten steel and desperately tries to adapt to the 1600 degrees Celsius temperature. It morphs into everyone it had killed and pretended to be, but ultimately is unable to keep up with the heat and is dissolved. While the T-1000 is nothing but a machine, it can show human traits like cynicism and sarcasm, and sometimes feign kindness. However, mostly it is designed to hate humans and focus on the extinction of mankind completely. However, it also shows signs of sadism, which is not common in Terminators. Some fans believe that even for a machine, this Terminator had a bit of an ego problem because it was the most advanced Terminator created, and somehow the T-800, which it considered far more rudimentary, was able to thwart its plans. It was later confirmed that Skynet stopped producing the T-1000 models almost immediately after because it was worried about the high level of intelligence in the Terminator, which could have led it to go rogue.
Right? You're wrong, Coraline.
The Bedlam, Coraline, 2009. The Bedlam is a perfect nightmare for young children. She's the primary antagonist of the book Coraline, as well as its movie counterpart, and is a malevolent interspatial shape-shifting witch who lures children into a different dimension with the goal of eating their flesh and keeping their souls imprisoned. The Bedlam's appearance changes through the course of the movie, and she usually takes the form of the children's mothers to lure them. She's mostly seen in the form of Mel Jones, Coraline's mother, although she looks more prim and proper and well-rested. However, her true form resembles the hybrid of a skeleton and an arachnid creature with 4 legs and a cracked face that looks like porcelain. The Bedlam takes on the form of the other mother in a more lively and vibrant dimension and prepares dinner for Coraline, and also has an other father for her. However, her eerie antics make Coraline suspicious, and she wakes up in the real world the next day. When she visits the other world again, things are not nearly as sunny, as the Bedlam asks her to sew buttons in her eyes. Coraline wants to go back to the real world, but is not allowed to, and gets to know about the real intentions of the Bedlam. She finally manages to escape to the real world before she realizes that her parents have been kidnapped by the Bedlam and goes back to the other world. Once again, the witch takes the form of Mel Jones and prepares a meal for Coraline, and the latter proposes a game, saying that if she can find the eyes of the ghost children and her parents, then she will have to be set free along with them. Coraline manages to do this, but knows that the Bedlam will not let her go so easily, so she tries to outsmart her. Finally, the key and the Bedlam's hand are thrown into the old well, ensuring that she can never get out of the other world and starves to death. Shapeshifting is one of the abilities of the Bedlam, but she also has a host of other powers. Broadly, she can take on 3 forms, the first being that of Mel Jones, Coraline's mother. However, she is different from the actual Mel Jones in the sense that she is taller, leaner, and wears makeup, in addition to having button eyes. After Coraline refuses the other mother's love and nurturing, she turns into a second form, which is taller, even thinner, and definitely scarier. The third form is the Bedlam's true form, where she looks like an arachnid creature who is also a skeleton. The Bedlam can create life and copies of other people from different things, but does not exercise complete control over what she creates. In the other world, however, she's pretty much omnipotent. Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Frederick Charles Freddy Krueger is one of the most iconic villains of films and the primary antagonist of A Nightmare on Elm Street. While alive, he's a child serial killer, and after death, he becomes a malevolent spirit who kills victims in their dreams, torturing them to death. He got his powers from the Dream Demons and becomes very well known for the sick pleasure he receives from targeting children. Freddy is a true killer. He's psychopathic and twisted and only cares about killing. However, enjoying the process also matters a great deal to him because he often tortures his victims for days at a time. However, unlike most serial killers, he does not have a very calm composure. He's prone to emotional outbursts like joy and rage. Ultimately, he becomes a nightmare made of flesh, which is what he had always wanted. In spite of his horrible character, he had a sense of superficial charm while he was alive. He was able to hide the fact that he was a child killer by playing the role of a grieving father very well. When his wife found out and he killed her, he was also able to get acquitted. When he becomes a malevolent spirit, he is most notable for his flamboyant personality and depraved sense of humor. He likes to crack jokes while tormenting his victims and is always deaf to their pleas for mercy. He's also egotistical and believes himself to be an entity akin to God. Freddy hates being forgotten because he believes that it will weaken him. He tries to get his victims to sleep forcefully and then tears them apart or watches them die naturally from sleep deprivation. It's revealed that he was abused as a child, having been raised by a sleazy pimp, and this is an effort on his part to gain sympathy for his actions. However, the problem remains that he was exhibiting telltale signs of sociopathy even then, so it's not really justified how he was a victim. He considers himself an embodiment of hatred and says that he will keep existing as long as hatred stays alive. He invades people's dreams and kills them in their nightmares, which also kills them in real life. He uses his iconic clawed glove mostly, but also has a variety of other sadistic methods. He's impossible to kill in the dream world because it's almost his domain, but he is mortal outside of the dream world and loses all his powers. However, even if he is killed then, he can return from hell provided there's enough fear in the area. If a person touches fire or anything hot while sleeping, they will be brought back from the dream world. Freddy himself resents fire considerably since it is what the parents had used to kill him.
What the hell's going on here?
Some kind of animal, sir.
David Kessler, An American Werewolf in London, 1981. David Kessler is the main antagonist of An American Werewolf in London. He was an American student who was bitten by a werewolf in the moors of Yorkshire, and this made him turn into a werewolf as well on the night of the full moon. He and his friend Jack Goodman were backpacking across the moors, and they were resting at a pub called The Slaughtered Lamb for the night. Jack noticed a 5-pointed star on the wall, and when he questioned about this, the people in the pub suddenly got very silent and hostile. The duo decided to leave the pub, but the people inside started giving them cryptic advice like, "Stay on the road," or "Beware of the moon, lads." While they were talking to each other, wondering what the meaning of the words could have been, they slip off the road and wander into the moors. The owner of the pub, in the meantime, became very distressed and wanted to go find the two boys. Just then, a ghastly howl was heard across the moor, and the pub-goers barricaded the door. They said they did not want to go out anymore. Jack and David hear the howl as well and realize it's getting closer. They tried to go back to the pub, but unfortunately, they had lost their way in the moor. A supernaturally large animal approaches and attacks them. After it kills Jack, it comes towards David, but is shot and killed by the pubgoers, who finally emerge. The animal changes into the dying body of a naked man, and David is taken to the hospital. He wakes up after a few weeks and is informed of Jack's death. And while he repeatedly informs that they were attacked by a large wolf, he is not taken seriously. David then suffers from a series series of horrific and equally bizarre nightmares, where he sees himself attacking and eating a deer, getting attacked by Nazis, and so on. Later, Jack, in the form of a reanimated corpse, arrives and informs his friend that he is now a werewolf and he should kill himself before the next full moon so he does not harm others. As things turn out, David does turn into a werewolf and kills 6 people before realizing this. He tries to kill himself, but in vain. The next night, he again kills 2 people before being finally shot dead by the police. Werewolves are not typically shapeshifters in the sense that they can take the form of anyone. Mainly, they can change their appearance from animal to human, but the process is usually excruciatingly painful. Still, An American Werewolf in London remains a classic in horror cinema, especially due to its special effects. The Shimmer, Annihilation, 2018. The Shimmer is the main antagonist of the science fiction horror mystery book Annihilation and its movie adaptation. It's a strange extraterrestrial entity that arrives on Earth and scrambles and combines the DNA of everything it touches. It arrived on this planet via a meteorite and crashed into a lighthouse. Soon after, it starts projecting an electromagnetic field around its new home and mutates the plants and animals by mixing their DNA with others. Soon, the electromagnetic field starts encapsulating the whole part next to the lighthouse. The US government takes cognizance of the matter and announces the area to be known as Area X and sends soldiers to investigate what's happening. While in the movie, none of the soldiers return, in the book, some of them do and explain the rules of the Shimmer. Eventually, an all-female team enters the area, and Lena, one of the members, whose husband was earlier sent in to explore, finds a body with a recording camera attached. She realizes that it was her husband who had recorded the video. He explained that his DNA was mutated to the point where his flesh had become liquid. Another person, looking exactly like her husband, appears and turns off the camera. Lena finally discovers the Shimmer, which reveals to her that it intends to absorb and mutate all life around it. It creates a humanoid entity that looks like her through a drop of her blood. Lena tries to attack it, but it only mimics her actions and attacks her in return. Lena realizes that the humanoid will mimic everything she does, and in the process, she gives it a phosphorus grenade and causes it to inherit her suicidal urges before activating it. She escapes while the grenade explodes and the humanoid falls into the hole, which was the underground chamber where the Shimmer resided. As everything catches fire, the force field around the part disintegrates with the apparent death of the Shimmer itself. As a being without any will, all that the Shimmer wants is to propagate itself and assimilate everything into it. It can mix the DNA of different life forms and mutate them in addition to creating near-perfect replicas of sentient beings, which inherit the memories and skills of the host. It's seen as a swirling cloud of matter from which light glows. It's not a shapeshifter by itself, like most of the names on this list. Rather, it holds the power to morph other beings into different forms by projecting a force field everywhere it goes and mutating anything organic. This is seen when a bear comes around having the voice of a human and an albino alligator is shown having the teeth of a shark. Serlina, Men in Black, 2002. The main antagonist of the 2002 sci-fi comedy movie Men in Black 2 is an enigmatic alien known as Serlina Zapp. She is the queen of the Kylothians and wants to destroy the planets Earth and Zartha. She's extremely evil and arrogant, and kills without any mercy. Her sense of self-worth is so high that she constantly talks down to both her allies and enemies, telling them how useless they are. While she prefers to eat anyone who dares to stand in her way, she can also use other methods of killing them, like using her tentacles. She's manipulative and traitorous, but has a soft spot for Zed, the leader of the MIB headquarters. Apparently, Serlina wishes she was his girlfriend, even though she tortures him a lot. That being said, Zed clearly does not reciprocate her feelings, and when he attacks her, she overpowers him but does not eat or kill him. Serlina was drawn to Earth in the 70s when the Zarthons attempted to bring the light of Zartha to Earth under the guidance of the MIB. Entering the scene, Serlina killed a Zarthon, took what she believed was the light of Zartha, and flew back into orbit. However, she was unable to find her shuttle and traveled from planet to planet in search of it, destroying many worlds. When she got back to know that the object she desired had been on Earth all along, she returned again in the year 2002. Upon returning, she finds a picture of a Victoria's Secret model, Lara Flynn Boyle, in a magazine and morphs into an exact copy of her. Creepy attacks her with the intention of raping her, but she eats him and later pukes him out when she realizes it was ruining her disguise. She meets with an alien in a restaurant and kills it when it gives her no useful information. She soon takes over the MIB headquarters, but Jay and Kay successfully escape and realize that the Light of Zartha is Laura Vasquez, who is a worker at the pizzeria and the biological daughter of the Zarthon queen, Lorana. Laura needs to be sent to Zartha on time. Otherwise, Earth would be destroyed and Zartha would become uninhabitable. Serlina captures Jay and taunts him, but before she can eat him, Kay shoots and seemingly destroys her, but her worm form survives. Later, she's tricked into being eaten along with her spaceship by the alien Jeff. While Jay and Kay try to shoot Laura into space again, Jeff arrives and vomits Serlina, who now looks like a giant worm. She tries to go after Laura in the form of a huge viney plant, which is her true form. However, she's finally shot and destroyed by Jay and Kay. Skrulls, MCU 2019 to present. Native to the planet Skrullos, Skrulls are a reptilian human race very well known for their shape-shifting abilities, which allow them to infiltrate different planets. They came into conflict with the Kree Empire when they refused to submit to their rule. However, the Kree defeated them in a genocidal war, which led the remaining Skrulls to use their shape-shifting abilities to move to other planets and stay there. The Kree started hunting for the survivors by painting them as fierce races that infiltrated planets and killed inhabitants. They faced immense issues in their search for a new planet, as they were met with hostility almost everywhere in the galaxy. Talos temporarily negotiated a contract with Nick Fury so the Skrulls could stay on Earth temporarily, until they would find a new home. In exchange for this, the Skrulls would form an invisible network of spies under Fury, and provide him with extremely valuable information and intelligence. This went a long way in preventing terror attacks and disrupting enemies. It was largely the efforts of the Skrulls that allowed Nick Fury to rise within the ranks at S.H.I.E.L.D. and eventually become its director. The Skrulls have green skin and pointed ears, and unlike all species that are native to Earth, they are not carbon-based life forms. They're immune to radiation and can live for far longer than humans. They have enhanced speed, strength, and stamina, but not superhuman levels. They can shapeshift into other sentient humanoid beings right down to the DNA of the individual. They can even copy their clothing. While all Skrulls have this quality, perfecting this requires a lot of practice. While they can access the recent memories of the person they've replicated, they cannot access the superhuman and supernatural qualities the person may have had. They have a unique DNA structure that can be tracked using Skrull detectors. It's interesting to know that in the comics, the Skrulls are a race of alien shapeshifters hell-bent on invading Earth in order to gain some level playing field against their war with the Kree. In what was called the Secret Invasion, many Skrull operatives replaced Earth's heroes. Moreover, their shape-shifting abilities come directly from the Celestials. Marvelous verdict. This list features a lot of different names, each enigmatic and terrifying in their own way. While there are plenty of shapeshifters in the history of cinema who have carved their portrayals in the minds of audiences, these are the ones that particularly stand out for being uniquely horrifying and mysterious. From extraterrestrial beings to humans like Seth Brundle, shapeshifting comes with its advantages as well as pitfalls. Did you enjoy this video? Let us know in the comments if you have any more examples of iconic shapeshifters in cinema. We'll be back soon with more engaging content, so stay tuned. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.